Bolivia and Chile are the 50 Cent and Kanye West of Latin America. Now, it is true they share a border, but other than that, they couldn't be more different. Bolivia is one of the poorest countries on the whole continent, while Chile is among the wealthiest. Bolivia is a paragon of the so-called indigenous socialism, while Chile is known as the Mordor of neoliberalism. And as if this was not enough, the two countries are involved in seemingly never-ending territorial disputes with each other. Nonetheless, now there is one thing that these two countries have in common. Yes, dear viewer, we are talking about white gold.
I said, goddamn! Goddamn!
No, not that type of white gold. I'm talking here about lithium. Lithium is used for the manufacturing of batteries that power your cell phone, your laptop, and those electric cars that eventually might flood our roads and highways.
They call it the new oil. It's the lightest metal on the periodic table. Its value has gone up tenfold in the last 2 decades alone, and its demand won't stop growing. Between 60 and 80% of the world's known reserves are in an area called the Lithium Triangle. This is an area that covers parts of Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. In these countries, lithium is abundant and easy to extract. In other words, this part of the planet might soon become a new Saudi Arabia.
The form that it's found in is found in like these dried up salt lakes, salars, or brines, which is very different than getting lithium out of hard rock. It's much cheaper, much more effective.
Among those three countries, Bolivia is the luckiest one. The so-called Salar de Uyuni holds 2 or 3 times more lithium reserves than the mines in Argentina or in Chile. Now, on the other hand, Chile already has a world-class mining industry. However, despite these reserves, Bolivia is exporting less lithium than the other two countries, and Chile might actually soon be out of this new white gold rush. In fact, Argentina is the nation that is getting the most attention from international investors. So today's question has to be, what's going on in Bolivia? Why is no one exploiting their lithium resources? And why is Chile following suit? Today we're going to answer all of those questions, but before we do, let's take a look at the history.
A new Potosi?
Now, if you've been subscribed to VisualPolitik for a while, you already know that having natural resources doesn't mean that you are rich. Bolivia is an excellent example of this. The country has all the natural wealth you can imagine. Lithium, silver, natural gas. Nevertheless, it is still one of the poorest countries in all of South America.
The silver mines of Potosi were the site of war for the Spanish crown during the 16th and 17th centuries. In fact, Spaniards still say, "This is worth a Potosi," meaning that something is too expensive. But the native Bolivians didn't reap the benefits of that silver wealth, and millions died under the extreme working conditions in the mines.
This is why it's pretty understandable that the government of Evo Morales is so reluctant to allow foreign companies to get into the country and extract the lithium. Besides, let's be honest, the real business here is not the raw materials, but in the industry that comes afterwards. For a better understanding of this, while we make this video, a metric ton of lithium costs around $9,000 on the international market. But if we take that raw lithium and we turn it into batteries for mobile phones, we can turn that lithium into a value of somewhere between $1.5 and $5 million. Of course, this is just a rough estimated value, and there are a lot of things that should be considered here, but it can help to look to comparison. Indeed, it can help explain news like this.
President Evo Morales opened in 2013 the first plant of lithium carbonate and, in February 2014, the first manufacturing facility for lithium-ion batteries.
But that is not all. In Bolivia, lithium is nationalized. This means that if you are a private mining company and you want to work on Bolivian soil, you must partner with the government and start a new company, which will be owned partly by the government. This new company can get paid for their service of building the mine, setting up the machinery, and extracting the lithium, but the lithium they extract, well, that belongs to the government. They have no rights to sell it. So now you might be wondering, why does Bolivia need foreign companies to exploit their own wealth? Can't they simply do it themselves? Well, the short answer is no. Modern day mining, it has nothing to do with the image you probably have in your mind of a guy with a hard hat and a pickaxe. Today, mining requires high-end machinery and world-class engineers. As you can imagine, these things are scarce in a country as poor as Bolivia. The If you wanted to create a competitive mining industry in that country without outside help, you would need decades. This is why it is so important to utilize companies who have the technology, the tools, and the staff to do the job. And this is why even Morales himself, unfriendly to multinationals, has said that it's time to get out there and find investors.
As soon as we have a big lithium industry, Bolivia will set the lithium price for the whole world. I want to say to you, governments and private companies, now you can join us.
So, alright, so what exactly is the problem here? Well, as we said before, Bolivian lithium is owned by the state. This means that companies that might invest in the country can only get a profit by partnering with the government. And from that profit, they must pay a special mining tax that goes up to 37.5%, which is by far the largest in the region. And if all of this wasn't enough, well, according to the World Bank, Bolivia ranks among the 50 countries where it is hardest to do business. They rank at about the same level as Sierra Leone. So now let's say that you're someone who wants to invest in lithium. Do you fancy investing in Bolivia? Or maybe you might prefer one of those other countries? You know, maybe. This explains why, at the moment, Bolivia, while it is the country with the biggest lithium resources, it is also the country that is exploiting them the least. If you pay attention to the chart here, you will see that today the leader of the lithium race is Australia. This is surprising because the resources of this country are 4 times smaller than those of Bolivia, plus Australian salaries are 6 times higher than Bolivian ones. So, as you can see, this is not a matter of low-paid jobs or natural wealth, but simply good and bad economic policies. But hold on just a minute, because this is not the only problem. Don't forget that Evo Morales' dream is for Bolivia to become a manufacturing leader in the lithium battery industry. But, I mean, how exactly is he going to achieve this without foreign companies setting up inside the country? Alright, so yeah, the government can set up its own factory, and that's all great and everything, but technology, patents, and the skills needed, they're held by companies like Panasonic, Samsung, or Tesla. Without these, Bolivia would need decades of research in order to be competitive on the international market. Alright, so a while ago we mentioned Chile, now let's go over and have a look at what's happening over there.
Chile follows in the steps of Bolivia.
For years, Chile has been known as something of a free market Disneyland. More precisely, their mining industry was one of the freest in the entire world. We're talking about a country where the economy relies heavily on copper mining. This is why, in the year 1981, Pinochet's dictatorship passed the so-called mining law. This allowed private businesses to own 100% of a mine. As you can imagine, this law kick-started foreign investment in the country. Suddenly, lots of companies like the Australian BHP Billington or the Swiss Xstrata came to Chile. And yeah, listen, I know what you're thinking. All these multinational companies, well, they looted the country and left it in poverty. Right? Right? Well, actually, that's totally wrong.
Of course, these Canadian, Swiss, and Australian companies came to extract the copper. But they also helped to finance lots of brand new companies which employed Chilean workers and were headquartered in Santiago. Companies like Minera Escondida or Antofagasta Mining.
In fact, thanks to this wave of investors, Chile now has a world-class mining industry. Actually, many of the engineers that are now needed in Bolivia, they live in the best neighborhoods of Santiago. And this means that Chile has been in a great position to lead this white gold rush. Nonetheless, in 2016, Chilean President Michel Bachelet declared that lithium was a different animal.
We confirm the strategic condition of lithium, which is property of all Chilean people and will keep its state as non-concessible material.
In other words, the government of Chile is following suit with Bolivia, but they do have an important difference. In this case, the country already has the technology and the staff to exploit its mineral wealth in an efficient way. Of course, many of these companies who were willing to invest in the country have lost all interest, but Chile has its own companies, so it's not so big a deal. Besides, until 2014, the other countries of this lithium triangle, Argentina and Bolivia, were way worse places for investment. So in this case, it's sort of like in the lands of the blind, the one-eyed person is king. Well, until now.
Argentina has been the big surprise here. While Chile and Bolivia have nationalized their lithium and have tried badly to scare away foreign companies, Argentina, with Mauricio Macri as its president, is doing something rather different, and they're now getting all the attention from international investors.
But we're actually going to talk about that in upcoming weeks in a sort of second part to this video. So if you don't want to miss that, please do be sure to subscribe to this channel. In the meantime, we've got a question for you. Do you think that Bolivia and Chile can reap the benefits of their lithium with these kinds of policies, or maybe Argentina will somehow overshadow them? You can leave me an answer in the comments section below. And just before we go today, I've got a really important question and sort of a request from you. You might have noticed that we rather like using rock music in our videos, and we'd love to hear from anyone who has a band and thinks that their music could be a good fit for us. We'll of course give you full credit in the video if we do use your music. If you're interested in doing that, please drop us an email. You can do that at info@visualpolitik.net. Also, please don't forget to visit our friends at the Reconsider Media podcast. They provided the vocals in this episode that are not mine. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And as always, I'll see you next time.